Hello and good afternoon to all the good viewers of this program who are watching this program with us. Allow me to share the link to this program on Telegram so that anybody who wants to view our program on Telegram can do so, and follow us on Telegram as we put this program on. That way I can also click on it and be part of it as well. Let me go to my Telegram and see the new program link. There we go. Also part of it now. So we've done that. While we're doing this, let me also go ahead and share the other program in our other friends' channels so that they can also have a chance at having our program, and also put it in our channel as well so that everybody can see it and everybody can enjoy them. Today we're going to be covering the 28th part of Musa al-Kazim. We're going to also explain a bunch of other information of how this guy committed thefts and how the mullahs continuously lie about him. We're going to share that with you as well so that you will have it. Allow me to go back in here so that we can bring up the material that we're going to be covering so that you can have it. All right. If you remember, this is where we left off last week, where supposedly the mullahs were telling us a lie about how Musa al-Kazim and Harun al-Rashid were together, and they were discussing who's closer to the Prophet, and they also sent our hello and greetings to everybody in the live chat who are chatting with us. And they were talking about how he's closer, and we showed you that they're both cousins and exactly the same distant cousin as each other. We also showed you the story is fake and how this is a fake story because by timelines of where these people were at the same time, they definitely did not meet except the time when Musa was being arrested to be thrown in prison. And when you're arresting someone to throw into prison, you obviously don't take that person with you and go traveling and go pray together and go places. And if you did, you would know exactly who the person is. You wouldn't be wondering about who is this guy. And obviously, if you met him there first, then when you met him at his house to arrest him, you won't be wondering if who is this guy because you've met him before. So either he had met him at his house when he was being arrested for the very first time, or he met him here for the very first time, which would mean one of the two stories would have to be a lie. And since the mullahs want to say both are correct, we would have to go with the very first one being correct and this one being the second story being incorrect. So that was how we showed you before. Now we're going to show you another source of how this whole entire story is incorrect. And we're going to use the words of the mullahs themselves who wrote about the story. So according to the mullahs here, Musa decided he was going to give more proofs, okay, of why Musa is closer related to Ata Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, than Harun al-Rashid. So here he goes on about how Musa decided to ask a question that only he could answer himself. Because for everybody else, when you ask them this question, they look at you like, are you crazy, mental, ill? What's wrong with you? But nevertheless, Musa decided to ask this question. And he asked it from Harun al-Rashid, and he said to him, if Allah's apostle, like Ghata Muhammad, the human feces, If human feces was raised from the dead and he asked for your daughter's hand, why is he going to go ask for the guy's daughter? I mean, the guy just got raised from the dead. Can't he go and start preaching to the people, tell them about what he saw after life and, try to get people to become better? He has to go, and the first thing he's going to do is go and ask for somebody's hand in marriage. Marriage being loosely, because it's a nikah contract, not an izdawaj. It's a contract for Fucking as much as your heart desires. That's the first thing Gata Muhammad is going to do. I mean, the Musa al-Kazim's first thought process is, how can I get this guy's daughters in my bed? That's where his head is at. And they say he's the imam of their time. Oh, the imam of their time was thinking with his other head down there. That's where his thought process is. So he decided to ask such a question. And Harun al-Rashid supposedly said, I would pride myself amongst the Arabs and the non-Arabs. I would say, look, I'm so good. The man with every sexual transmitted disease you can think of has risen from death, and he wants my daughter. So the pride is about who can get the status of the one that everyone wants to have the status of. You don't pride yourself about, I'm the most religious, I'm the most God-fearing, I'm the most this, I'm the most that. No, I pride myself that Muhammad has more power than everybody else, and now my daughter is connected to him, which means now my daughter has more power than most women on the planet, and therefore, I'm the father of that daughter, and because I'm the father of that daughter, later on, I'll get something out of it. Normally something where you can count it and say, this is good money, man. This is good, it's good money. Yeah. Pride. Oh. And then Musa al-Kazim explained to him that the goddamn prophet would never ask for my daughter's hand. I mean, we all know why, because, you're sleeping with them. But in reality, he would, because this is the family where when your prophet was a baby, when he was a child, around the same age of 6 and 7, he was inside the bed of Abu Talib, and Abu Talib was having intercourse with your prophet's anal. And then when your prophet grew up, he was doing the same to Fatima the Zahra, which you Shia Muslims insist is his biological daughter. He was fondling her breast, French kissing her in front of his Sahaba, his friends. He had his hand down her pants, playing away as he felt like it in front of everybody. He was putting on a whole XXX show, live XXX show from his own house for his companions to see. He was teaching them what to do using Fatima the Zahra. This is how you play with her. This is how far you go up when they're a kid. This is how you fondle the breast. This is how you do the kiss. And when they were gone, God knows what else she did. Yes, that's exactly how it was done. And then when he couldn't do it to her, he used to get your Ali, Ali, the cousin of the Prophet. And he was a 40-year-old man with his cousin who was 7 years old. And he would do the same to him. Both Fatima the Zahra and Ali at different times were in his bed. First it was Ali, Then later on, it was Fatima the Zahra. The fondling business continued. The molestation continued. The rape continued. Then Ali was doing the same to his own grandchildren. He did it with Hassan's children. He did it with Hussein's children. Together, him and Hussein would go and kill Iranian people and steal. It's literally stealing. You abduct their kids and you bring them back home and you force them into a nikah contract. And then both of you play the role of XXX videos where the two of you together are raping a small kid, 9, 10-year-old kid. Even the pedophiles of today wouldn't do that. I mean, the pedophile of today, at least, they go by themselves, but this was the family of pedophilia. They gang bang the pedophilia even. And then Hassan did that to Hussein's kids. Then Hussein did that to his kid, Ali Zain al-Abidin's kids. Then Ali Zain al-Abidin did it to his own kids' which turned out to become Jafar al-Sadiq and Muhammad al-Baqir. They were doing this to all of them, and they all the way went down to Musa al-Kazim, who was sleeping with his own father, Jafar al-Sadiq. And you come from a family where they don't even ask you. They just take the kid and go in and when they're done, the kid stays there so that the next time they get up and ready, this is the family. How are you going to say that, oh, he wouldn't ask for the hand of the kid? I mean, every single one of you, including that prophet, did this. Dr. Mossavat has the knowledge. These mullahs, they will write something for you and try to make it sound like it's great. As long as you, the reader, don't know Islam and don't understand Islam, they have the power. But once you have the power and you can refute what they're writing, then all of a sudden they turn into a little cockroach and they hide under a rock because there's nothing they can say to refute it. In the words of Muhammad Hijab, they're finished, boy. You're finished. All these mullahs are finished. They don't have anything. They cannot defend themselves. Back to what he said here. He said that is because they're our grandfather, father, not your grandfather, father. Well, in order for him to be a grandfather biologically, that means, according to Islamic law, for him to be a grandfather biologically, Muhammad would have had to produce semen, and that semen would have had to penetrate an egg, and that egg would have had to turn into a male human being, and that male human being would have had to continue that same process over and over and over and over and over and over. But apparently, Muhammad did not produce semen, never had a child, let alone a male child. Therefore, all of the offsprings that call themselves Ahlul Bayt are actually offsprings of Ali and not Muhammad. Therefore, Ali is their fathers. They're from Ali's line. And Ali is from the line of Abu Talib. And Abu Talib is literally the uncle of Qata Muhammad. Abu Talib is the brother of Abbas. And they are brothers of Abdullah, who was the father, per se, of Muhammad. But Muhammad was born 4 years after the death of Abdullah, which means a man in reality, when we talk about science, cannot impregnate a woman 4 years after his death. If you have a source, bring it forward. Of somebody else other than this Abdullah guy, whose science can say yes. I mean, the guy died. And then, 3 years after he was dead, he came back and got his form back, got his physical body back, and went and had intercourse with his wife after 3 years of being dead. And then she got pregnant and the kid came out. Yeah, bring me that. Bring me that source. Whereas in Islam here, you're told that this guy, he died. 4 years later, he came out. Of course he came out. His mother had his legs wide open. Everybody in town was a customer. She was ridden like the government mule by the whole city. Everybody knew, hey, if you need, if you got, what you got to do to relieve yourself, there's that house over there, and Amina lives in that house. Go ahead, knock on the door. She'll open the door, and you get to work. And you do what you got to do. You'll have a real good time. She had everybody. Anybody could be this guy's father. Loosely, he is the cousin of both the Abbasid and the family of Musa al-Kazim. Loosely, the Hashim. Loosely. Nobody knows who this guy's father is. They say it's Abdullah. If I was there, I'd point that out. This whole thing would be ended. This matter is solved. Musa al-Kazim is far, far away, and so is Harun al-Rashid from being a member of this guy's household. This guy never had a household. A guy who has 68 nikah contracts. 68 fucking contracts. And then on top of that has thousands upon thousands upon thousands of slave women just for the sake of having a good time in a bed. What does this guy know about family? Nothing. How many hours can you give? Forget hours. How many minutes can you give to 68 different women? You only have 7 days in the week. You're supposed to give a day to each one. You ran out of 7 days. There's no 8th day. What are you going to do from the 8th day on? So you have to split every day into multiple women. How many hours are you going to give? Are you going to just walk from one to one to one? No wonder he had so much sexual transmitted diseases. He would go from one to one to one to one to one to one. And what are you going to do when you go there? You're going to have sex and then you're going to be like, goodbye, I got to go. And the other one's waiting. Then you're going to go to that one. Goodbye, I got to go. The other one's waiting. And you're going to tell me someone's going to be proud that that idiot is going to come and ask for your daughter's hand? I'd spit on him if he came and asked for my daughter's hand. I'd say, get away from over here. And I don't even have a daughter. So he wanted to show him his proof. And the proof was that the Prophet won't ask for my daughter's hand. He will just take her. And then he said, your women folk Can they be seen by the prophet without being unveiled? Harun said no. And he said, mine can. But your women folk are giving birth to your own children because you've been sleeping with your own daughters as your women folk. So the prophet can't do nothing with your daughters. And that's all his mind is on. His mind is all about sex. Hey, can they see your hair? I can see the hair. But you can see the hair. Oh, can I get the hand? Oh, no, you can't get the hand, but I can get the hand. Oh, yeah. Now, the whole time, the only thing this guy thinks of is that. And then we go further down. When we reach this paragraph, you see page 40, the second paragraph page. We're going to show you how the mullah who wrote this book completely made up this whole entire story and is trying so hard to push the story as a real event. But we took previously the first interaction between Musa and Harun as the one that happened in front of Musa's house when he got arrested. And I told you this one right here is fake. Now the mullah, with their own writing, are going to confirm that this story that we're reading now is completely fake. Never happened. How do we know that? Well, let's read. He explained to those around him. He explained. Okay, we'll let it go. He's starting the paragraph. Maybe at this point, Mullah is talking on his own behalf about the incident. That Rashid's belief was invalid. That is because the Imam, meaning Musa, is more appropriate for the Prophet than him and worthier than the Khalid, than him, for he is his grandfather and his inheritor. Right here. For him and for he was his grandson. You know, here, if the Imam is talking, the Imam would not say worthier of the Khilafat than him and he was his. He would say, for I, not for he. And he would not say was because he's not dead yet, he's alive. And if you're telling me the story and you're quoting what the Imam is saying, and you're now finishing that story, the Imam Musa, as you want to give him a name and title, he should have been talking himself and finishing by putting everything together here. Why are you putting it together for him and taking it out of the story you're telling? If the Imam, so loosely you call him, is talking, and he's what? Imam of sex? Because he doesn't do anything religious. He doesn't know the Quran. He doesn't pray. Where would you have time to pray when you're having sex with so many little girls? He doesn't fast. How can you fast when you're having sex with so many girls? He does not know anything about anything other than to steal money and put it into land, rape little kids. So what? He's Imam of sex? That's all he is? He's a sexual guru? Musa al-Kazim? Huh? If he's here finishing his story, he should round it up, because that's how you round it off. You say, let's do a recap. I did this, I did this, I did this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. Why are you now talking on behalf of him? They show us when they switch from his story, now they want to tell the story on his behalf. They're showing us that this is a lie. They're showing us that they're writing a lie. If these were his words, and he's recapping the words of Musa, well, Musa would not call himself a he and use the word was. You're only able to use was after Musa's dead. When he's alive, he would say, I am his grandson. When you're writing he was, that means he's dead. That means someone else is writing on his behalf after he's dead. Someone gave themselves the authority to write this story on behalf of. How do we know the person who's writing was there, met them, saw them? Obviously, he wasn't there. This is what, like 400 years after the death of Muhammad? This is 1,000 years ago. The mullah who wrote it is alive today. As al-Rashid was exhausted, and now we go right back in the story. We go right back in the story. So why did you take us out of the story to write this and then bring us right back in the story? They do that so that the person who's reading, if he's not paying attention, will think this was part of the story and he's still in the story. But they took us out of the story to bring us right back into the story. Which would mean if Musa was saying all of this, he's just talking about himself in the third party. And we don't do that. Now, when you're making a claim that something belongs to you, like if I wanted to say this cup belongs to me, I'm not going to start talking about the cup belonged to him and he was the owner of the cup. What do you mean he was? I'm still here. The cup's still here. I am the owner of the cup. This cup belongs to me. Who's he? What are you talking about? But that's what they just did. Oh, he owned this thing. The guy forgot. The mullah forgot he was telling you a story. And then he tried to double down on it by telling you that, yes, he was this and he was that. And then he forgot that he just said this, which one means that the story is finished. And now he's talking on his own. But he jumped right back into the same story by telling you al-Rashid was exhausted by such demonstrations. Exhausted. I mean, think about it. Here's a guy. He's currently at war with Rome in Europe. He's already taken, before him, Byzantine was already taken. So now he's taking on Rome. Rome of that time is from Portugal all the way to Italy, all the way up to Germany, and right across down France and Belgium and all of that, right? That the whole big section of Europe is Rome. The guy is fighting them. He's got his forces in the continent of Africa fighting different African nations. The Iranians inside this Islamic land are revolting to take back their country, and he's fighting them and crushing them too. He's crushing on 3 fronts. He's fighting 3 battles at the same time. He's got a powerful army. He's so strong mentally. Because one person with one of these battles could be exhausted. You'd be like, oh my God, I got so much on my plate. No, this guy's got 3 different wars going on with multiple countries, and he's still strong. And just because somebody told him, hey, if a 1,400-year-old man died, came back to life, and he asked for your daughter's hand in marriage, and by the way, he can't ask me. He can't see your women without a veil. They have to have a hijab on. Uh-huh. And that's the words that's going to make the guy melt and have a breakdown and become exhausted and say, I can't take it anymore. That's it. My heart, my heart. Apparently, that's how it is here. The guy couldn't take it. Harun Rashid, exhausted by such a demonstration. Return to the methods of those weak. He became weak. Like, oh my God, don't hit me now. Please, please. Oh. Only mullahs can write such garbage. He ordered Musa to be arrested. So now Musa got arrested for the second time? I mean, when did he come out of prison the first time? He got arrested and they threw him in the prison. I mean, they grabbed him like you grab a cat and a dog, and they threw him into. Yeah, they threw him into prison for the second time, ladies and gentlemen. Now, he's specifying the borders of Fadek. Fadek. Let's explain to you, the English readers and the English listeners and those who understand English. You see, you don't know what Fadek is. You might see this Fadek for the very first time. You might have heard of Fadek before, but you just don't know what is Fadek, and you're wondering, what is Fadek? Fadek what? Fadek what? What Fadek? You see, back then, as I've explained in Persian language programs from 4 years ago in other channels, I have them saved in my other lectures. If you go into my YouTube, not in the live section, but if you go to my playlist and you find my lectures, in my lectures, you will find it in the Persian language, but it's not in English yet, because those channels that I gave that lecture on, they were Persian speaking channels only. Because of that, those programs were in Persian. I will have to eventually one day do those again in English and repeat those again in Persian in this channel so that you will find it easier. You see, back in those days, when the Prophet of Islam was walking and talking and living, not dead like now, the areas that he attacked in Arabia, these were Jewish Iranian towns. You see, Iran has become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as time has been going on. Whereas back in the Sassanid Empire of Iran, Iran was a lot bigger than it is today. A lot bigger. It had a vast amount of land. Similar to today's Russia. But it wasn't so far north. It was further down south. Imagine from Tajikistan today and most of Turkmenistan, a little bit of Uzbekistan and all of that, going all the way across to just under Armenia, including the modern Azerbaijan country, which is really Arawan, and coming back down, taking the whole of Iraq of today, going down, taking majority of what today is called Saudi Arabia, going all the way down, taking Bahrain, Oman, Yemen, grabbing 60% of modern day Pakistan, all of Afghanistan, all of this, okay, all of this, Kuwait and UAE and all of that. You add all of that together, all the way down to Yemen, this was all Iranian territory. Now, when Muhammad Qaddam came in, he started attacking these little Jewish towns because the towns in Arabia, they were territory that the army of Iran used to use in order to go from Iran itself to its territories, which was like Yemen and so on. And in order to get there, because Saudi is a giant desert, they needed places that they can rest as they move along. It wasn't like today where you have an airplane that picks up and goes over there in 3 hours and sits down and you do whatever you want. This was days and days that they would have to go, and they would have to bring a big entourage. It wasn't just the military. It's not a bunch of soldiers going. You have to bring the chefs, the doctors, the wives, the kids. I mean, these guys are going to go. They got to bring their families with them. They got to move. Big entourage is coming. Just someone carrying the water, that was just a big feat on its own, because you would have to have so many horses and camels and whatnot that are going to carry this. And, you can only use horses to a certain point, and you have to change and adapt to camels. Then you got to move with camels, which are slower. And, it's a big process back in those days. But Muhammad was attacking these little towns and taking them over, so that by taking them over, they don't have to worry about the Iranian might having power. By taking them over, they can slowly take over sections of the Iranian military, making the military smaller and smaller for a future invasion of Iran. See, that's something nobody talks to you about, because the story is paid and written by Arabs, and hence, because Arabs are trying to show the picture of Islam coming out of Saudi Arabia instead of Petra, which is Jordan, they want to show you a different story. They want to change their history. So they came up with a lot of fake stuff put in their history. But this is what really happened. Fadak was a town that belonged to some Jews that are Iranian, that the military would have arrested. When they tell you the story today, the mullahs, they want to tell you the story that Fadak was nothing but a farm. It had a house and some farmland, and that this was given to Fatima Zahra by the Prophet, and then somehow after he died, Abu Bakr and Omar, they came and they beat up Fatima, and they took the farmland and they took her to court. And in court, they said prophets can't give inheritance. And they took it and they gave it to Abu Bakr's own daughter, Aisha, which was the wife or nikah contract pedophile child that Muhammad was having sex with throughout his life. But in reality, this is a city. Similar to, like, for example, if you live in Toronto, there's Scarborough beside you, or Markham, or North York. Similar to if you live in Houston, you have like places like Texas City, Sugar Land, and so on, Tomo, and other places. Similarly, this was a little city. So Muhammad decided to give a whole city as a gift to his adopted daughter, Fatima Zahra, who the Shias will tell you is his biological daughter. Now, during the time of Harun al-Rashid and the rest of the Abbasids, they tried to create borders for their cities so that they can make new cities in lands that are not inhabited. Like they made the city of Mecca, which the Muslims want to pretend has been there from the beginning of time. They created the Kaaba, which the Muslims will tell you has been there for the beginning of time. They try to distort the real history. The mullah here is going to write about Fadak. And the mullah here is going to prove what I'm saying is right, and what modern day mullahs say about Fadak being a farmhouse is wrong. You see, when Harun al-Rashid came along, Musa was reclaiming that since the Umayyads took the Fadak from the first four caliphs, the Fadak needs to be returned back to the family of the Prophet. And since you've taken Khilafat, the governorship, we want our Fadak back. And he's fighting for Fadak. And Harun al-Rashid is trying to work with him. He's trying to figure out, well, what is the border of this Fadak that you're talking about? I want to know what kind of Fadak you're talking about. What is it? Where is this border? Give me a border. Let me see if there is something I can do for you. Because if there is, okay, we'll work it out for you. But if there isn't, I mean, we'll see. Because I can't give you a whole city. So they tried to ask him. But here the mullahs, right? The reasons why and which failed our own soul with lots of malice against Musa, and why he arrested him and killed him, is to determine the borders of Fadak. Okay? Remember that. Mullahs are accusing that Harun al-Rashid killed Musa in prison because he wanted Fadak. Let's see what Fadak is. He indicated, and it included most of the Islamic areas. You see? Musa, indicated that most of Islamic areas of the land, of the one country that this guy has, are his land. In other words, he's saying when Fatima Zahra was given Fadak, that means everybody's homes, everybody's animals, everybody's farms, everybody's wives and kids come with that land and belong to Musa al-Kazim. Because he says, I'm from the descendants of Fatima. So inheritance, I own everybody. So he owns the people, he owns the lands, he owns any resources in those lands, he owns the animals, he owns the water, he owns everything. I mean, when somebody is in prison and they tell you, hey, you're the king, but everything that you're a king of belongs to me, sounds like that's a person that is asking to be killed at that point. Because, in other words, they're telling you, I'm waging war on you. You are not the king because everything belongs to me. I mean, that's what a king is. King says the country belongs to me. Everybody is my subject. I'm on top and everyone's below. But if you're going to say that, no, you're the king of this place, but everything you're a king of belongs to me, that means you see yourself rival with him. When you see yourself as a rival with him, this king, Harun al-Rashid, already told you, as long as you stay away from that, I'll leave you alone in prison. But if I hear that you're going to do that, I'm going to pluck out your eyes. In other words, if I hear you're still trying to take on me in a war that we just finished between you and me, I won, you lost. I'm in charge, you're not. And now, out of my mercy, I'm going to let you live, but I'm going to put you in prison so that I can make sure you stop this. But if you start it again from inside a prison and somehow find a way to do the same thing and create the same war, then of course, next time, there is no next time. I'm just going to kill you so that I can put it to rest. I don't want this war with you anymore. I'm fighting on 3 fronts. I don't need a 4th. This is what he's saying. We don't need a 4th front, an internal fight. Because if we have an internal Arab fight, then we cannot fight the Romans, and the Romans will come and invade us. The Africans that we've started a war with will come and invade us. The Iranians who are doing an uprising will have a chance to beat us because we don't have a military that can stand up to all of them if the military itself fights itself. So Harun al-Rashid is coming from a point of view that's best for his people. Musa al-Kazim is coming from a point of view that's disastrous for his own people, and he can't understand it. So now we're going to look at Fadak. That was when Harun asked him. Harun even went as far as to be merciful enough to say, man, you're my cousin, let me ask you, let me give you all the chances in the world. So Harun al-Rashid asked, if I determine them, will you refuse them? The borders. He's talking about borders. If I determine borders, will you? Musa al-Kazim didn't want to answer at first. And then he said, do that by the right of your grandfather. So now Musa al-Kazim has been told, you know, have mercy on everybody, and just by, you know, what your grandfather told you, can you tell us what the border is? I mean, what did your grandfather say is the border? And here is where Musa al-Kazim is going to tell Harun al-Rashid, the king of the empire, the Khalif of the time, what the borders of the Fadak that belongs, or in his mind, belong to his family through inheritance by Qata Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, what the borders are. Okay, we're going to look at the borders. On one area, the border is from Aden, which, you know, Aden is in the south of the Arabian Peninsula, like Oman, Yemen area. The second border is at Samarkand. Samarkand is a city that's now inside of Afghanistan, Iran, Afghanistan, in that area. On its third side of the border, it's bordering with Africa, which is Africa. On the fourth border, it's bordered with Saif al-Bahr, which is, you know, towards the Byzantine area, so Syria and all of that area. And it's on the other side where the water is, because now he's reaching the Caspian Sea. It's in the islands, beyond the islands of Armenia. In other words, the whole entire empire. He took the Persian Empire. He took the rest of the Middle East that the Byzantine had, and he's bordered inside of Africa, and you know, he's heading towards Europe. All of this is Fadak to him. You know, it's all Fadak. I mean, all the cities that are there, they don't exist. It's just one big city, and it all belongs to him. And the Prophet of Islam gave him this. I mean, the Prophet of Islam was not even alive when the Arabs finally finished invading all of Iran. The Prophet of Islam was not alive when they finished, because he was alive when they did the attacks, but he wasn't alive when they finished taking over all of Byzantine. The Prophet of Islam definitely was not alive when they went into Africa. The Prophet of Islam was not alive when they went into Europe, but a dead man has given him the blessings of having him inherit everything that has happened after that man has died as part of his inheritance. This is Fadak. Next time you see them in your cities and they have a procession, oh, the injustice, they took Fadak. Tell them, shut up. I know the truth about your Fadak. And your Fadak is fake. Therefore, we will have nothing. I told him, you're going to have nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we ended the Persian program for the Persian speakers. So we're going to end it here for you in the English language so that the two parts can be the same. And we don't have to do any weird thing of combining two parts together like we had to do that other time. If you find our program useful, click on the subscribe button. Join our programs, like our programs, write a comment under the program when the program's finished. And until our next program, I leave you in the hands of Jesus. God bless everybody. Don't forget